Hey, and welcome to episode number 102 of the Brave Widow Show. I am so excited to share these special guests with you today, Dr. Gloria Horsley and Dr. Frank Powers. Listen, I get questions from widows all the time around dating, around finding love after loss, around whether or not it's too late, they're too old, they're too overweight, they're too this, they're too that, like whatever it is. The main reason I built the dating masterclass series in the Brave Widow membership community is because our brains love to feed us insecurities. We love to believe all of these thought errors around all the reasons why finding a relationship isn't possible or won't be as good as our first one or won't we won't find someone who's accepting or who's close to us or who truly embraces everything about us. I built the Dating Masterclass series to help you get your mindset right when it comes to dating, when it comes to readiness, when it comes to setting up your profile, when it comes to not wasting time with all these pen pals and people that just want to chat. Like, no, you don't need that. Get rid of it. If you're not part of the membership community, then sign up today and get access to that 6-part series with worksheets in the Brave Widow membership community so that you can free yourself from a lot of this mind drama that happens. When it comes to dating and it comes to finding love after loss, our brains like to feed us all kinds of mind drama about why it's not going to work. It's going to be hard. It's going to be heavy. It's going to be difficult. It's just going to suck. And the reality of it is that it doesn't have to. Finding love after loss is totally possible, even if you're finding love later in life, like Dr. Gloria and Dr. Frank did in their 80s. In their 80s, people. I hope you enjoy their story and their sense of humor as much as I did. And I hope ultimately it inspires you that if you want to find love again after loss, that you can, and it's not too late for you. Now, before we dive into this story, I want to let you know we are going to have another free public live workshop. And I'm not going to drop too many hints about what this workshop is going to cover. But if you want to be among the first to know and you're not in the membership community already, then you definitely want to be on the email list. And the way to join that list is to go to bravewidow.com/free, FREE. I have a whole packet of free resources just for you. And by signing up, you can be one of the first to know of when this workshop is going to happen, what it's going to be about, and you can get registered. If you're on the email list, it's super easy to register. It's literally one click. It signs you up automatically, and we make it as convenient for you as possible. All right, let me introduce Dr. Gloria and Dr. Frank. Dr. Gloria Horsley, age 84, and Dr. Frank Powers, age 82, co-authored the new book, Open to Love, The Secrets of Senior Dating, to share their tips and tricks on finding love in their golden years, just like they did. It's available on Amazon in the US. You can find it in a hardbook version as well as audiobook for Kindle. 2 years ago, they were both open to finding love again following the passing of Gloria's husband of 60 years and Frank's divorce. They met on Silver Singles, a dating website for seniors, and then decided to meet in person in Frank's hometown of Scottsdale, Arizona. Online dating was new to Gloria, while Frank had used the service off and on throughout the years. Frank says his heart skipped a beat when he saw Gloria's profile, and Gloria said she was drawn to Frank's profile because he was a therapist like her and enjoyed favorite pastimes of golf and pickleball. Since their very first date, they've been inseparable and decided to share the secrets to finding love with other seniors through this new book. Playfully dubbing themselves the Golden Dating Doctors, they have also been co-hosting the Open to Hope podcast, where they've been discussing senior relationship themes, as well as tips and tricks to finding hope and love after loss. Dr. Gloria Horsley, PhD, is a licensed marriage and family therapist and clinical nurse specialist. She's the president and co-founder of the Open to Hope Foundation and co-hosts the award-winning Open to Hope TV series and podcast. A former faculty member of the University of Rochester School of Nursing and the Academy of Intuition Medicine, she has co-authored 10 books and written numerous articles. She's a member of the Forbes Nonprofit Council and serves on the advisory boards for the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors and the Elisabeth Kubler-Ross Foundation. Widowed after 60 years of marriage, she has 4 children, including a deceased son and 10 grandchildren. She and her partner, Dr. Frank Powers, mostly split their time between Palo Alto, California, and Scottsdale, Arizona. Dr. Frank Powers, PhD, has been a licensed psychologist with a private practice in Scottsdale for the last 30 years. He served as a chairman of the Psychiatric Security Review Board for the state of Arizona and is a past psychology professor at Scottsdale Community College. He studied sexuality under William H. Masters and Virginia E. Johnson and received advanced training in couples therapy with the Imago Institute of Harville Hendricks. He has published numerous articles on the subjects. A graduate of George Williams College, he holds a master's degree from Arizona State University and Columbia University and a doctorate in psychology from Union Institute. He's an award-winning sculptor, and in his spare time, he enjoys golf, pickleball, and tennis. He has 2 stepdaughters and 1 step-grandson from a previous marriage. Open to Hope is an international nonprofit organization with the mission of helping people find hope after loss. The organization features an online community offering inspirational stories of loss, hope, and recovery, as well as an award-winning television talk series, a podcast, book, and articles. In parallel with the nonprofit Open to Hope, president and co-founder Dr. Gloria Horsley and her partner, Dr. Frank Powers, co-wrote Open to Love, The Secrets of Senior Dating. For more information on Open to Hope, visit opentohope.com. You'll also find links to all of their social media and their websites in the show notes of this podcast episode. All right, let's dive in. Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Brave Widow Show. I am here with Doctors Gloria Horsley and Dr. Frank Powers, and they are going to share their story and some tips and insights that they have found for finding love after loss later in life. And I'm so excited to host them on the show today. So both of you, welcome, and thank you for deciding to come on the show.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thanks, Emily, for having us on the show today. We were talking about who should start, and I guess it probably starts with me.
Of course.
Everything starts with me.
He's a smart man, but go ahead and get us started.
I've learned.
Yes.
Okay, so starting out almost 4 years ago, my husband, during COVID, but he died of a staph infection after his 12th back surgery. And I had been in ICUs with him before, and I'd had traumas, and I'd lost my hair and all sorts of things. So by the time he
Caretaking traumas.
Yeah, caretaking traumas, which we talk about in our new book.
Mhm.
But anyway, I had been through a lot with him. We've been married for 60 years. He was a wonderful guy. He had all his faculties and all that, but his body, he knew his body was pretty done with. So anyway, when he died, it was during COVID, but luckily I'm from a little tiny town, and we went back to the town of Brigham City, Utah, and we had a regular funeral with the people we both grew up with. So that was lucky for us that we were able to do it because it was a green zone there at the time. So this was almost 4 years ago. And I met a guy in a grief group, and it wasn't Frank. And I met him early on in a grief group, and he happened to be a golfer, and so am I. So we golfed every day. Every
Golfing
day.
through grief.
Golfing through grief. We golfed every single day with him. And then he ended up, after about 6 months, moving in with me. And then he decided he went to Hawaii with me.
He ghosted her.
He ghosted me.
What? You got ghosted?
She got
Yes,
ghosted.
I
Yes.
did.
It was probably the biggest gift to me he could have been.
Oh,
So
I love that.
I was in Hawaii at the time because I'd gone there with, well, you can understand why he ghosted me with the 23 family members.
Yeah, he was a little overwhelmed.
I have 3 daughters and 13 grandkids.
That's
So,
amazing.
so he left and went home, and I got COVID in Hawaii, and I was sitting in a hotel room, and he ghosted me and said, I should have told you, but I'm through. I'm leaving your keys on the counter and I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Wow.
I was so hurt and angry, and I was looking out the window at my friends going to dinner and everything, and I would creep out by myself to go for a little walk with COVID, because my doctor's like, don't leave the hotel room and don't tell anybody you've got this. You'll never get back onto the
Yeah.
mainland. So I'm there, recovering from COVID by myself. So I decided that I would write a book for widows, because I've written some other books on in-laws and things. And so I'm mad. So I'm going to take revenge, because I've learned a lot about being a widow and dating that I never even thought about, because I was married for 60 years. So
Mm.
so I'm like, yeah, I'm going to write this book. He had told me that he went online dating, the guy
And
who
he had a
ghosted
lot
me.
of success.
And he had a lot of success, and he told me that he wouldn't have any trouble finding a relationship.
Yes.
Wow.
Whoa, okay. Okay. So I thought I'm gonna have to put a chapter on online dating. So I got on my little handheld. I didn't have my big computer there, and I put silver singles. I put over 60 silver singles, and I got a couple of people responded to me. And one of them, they were both in Arizona. I was staying with my lovely sister who let me live with her the year after my husband died. So I moved after, yeah, I moved there during the winter and lived with her in Arizona, because I'm from California now. Anyway, so I got 2 people, and I said to Frank, hey,
The first one was a disaster, thank God. So I was number 2.
I met him. He spent his whole time talking about pancreatic cancer.
Yes, and he had his little Shriner shirt on with his name Dave
written
on
on
it.
the
So
book. So,
listen, after that, I looked pretty good.
Dave was a very nice guy. But anyway, then I met Frank a couple of days later. Well, I have a very robust website, because I've been doing podcasts for 20 years.
Mm.
And my son was killed in an automobile accident. He was 17 many years ago. So,
Mm.
and I'm a therapist and a clinical nurse specialist, and I've been in the grief and loss world for many, many years. So I knew a lot of people in that world. And so I met Frank.
She told me first off that I don't want to misrepresent myself. I'm really interested in just writing a book and doing research.
So I'm here for
I
research.
looked at her and I thought, no, I don't think this is not research.
What a way to open a conversation. Like, this is just for research, just so you know.
Yeah, just so you know, that's all that's going on here. Anyway, so I was going to pick I was going to have shoulder surgery, and I was going to pick up my friend at the airport the next day. And Frank says, you don't know this area. Why don't you let me
I'll take you to the airport. I'll
pick up
take you
your
up your
friend?
friend. Yeah.
So we've been together ever since.
Yeah. It was really a pickup.
That's so good.
Yeah, we've been together for almost going on 3 years now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we live together. We both sold our houses, and we're moving into a senior community.
Yeah, we were actually engaged to get married, and we had a marriage license. We had all kinds of things, and then we did our research for our book, and then we decided, I don't think I think we should say fiancés forever.
Well, I don't
so
know.
Easier.
My daughters give us a hard time.
Well, they did.
Oh.
My 3 daughters, because I was going to get married after 2 weeks.
Yeah. That coming from a background that you had, that was really
from a religious background. You just don't mess around. You get married. Which talk a little bit about the book. There's some dangers.
We talk a lot about it
in our book. It's called Open to Love: The Secrets of Senior Dating. But we actually have found out that a lot of people like this book that aren't seniors.
Yes, it has some dating advice that I think is probably not necessarily just age related. Some interesting things about what you need to look for in a mate, and how especially you do online, because we find a lot of people did not have great experiences when they first went online, and we have really helped people. One of the issues that we talk about a great deal is that you should never go online alone. You should never go on your head alone, but you shouldn't go online alone. You should have a dating buddy. And we talk about what dating buddies can do for you, and that it's really a lot more fun. It's a lot more educational. You have to learn, especially people at our age. We're not used to being online. So
Anybody over
this is
50
yeah,
or
this is
60 have
kind of a new experience for them. So
people don't realize that the average age of widowhood is 57.
Mm, yeah.
I mean,
I was 37 when my husband died, and online dating wasn't a thing for me either. So
right.
just figuring out like that's why I was attracted to online dating apps, because I'm like, I hear all the horror stories. I have to know, is it true? How do
Right.
people act?
and some of the stories are true.
Yeah, but you didn't tell her your story because you're a big online dater for years.
Well, I had been married and
A couple of times.
yeah, a three-time loser. But one of the things was I was married for almost 20 years to another psychologist, and she and I had a practice together, and we worked with couples to couple. And so I had a lot of experience with seeing people go through the whole dating process. And also, if you were married, what were the elements that you needed to tackle or deal with if you're going to stay married and have a really good relationship. So that 20 years was a real education for me, and we worked together very well. And so when that relationship ended in divorce, I was devastated. And so I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And then I went online at that point, and that was 2000. So I had been trying online to meet people and met some absolutely wonderful women and had some really absolutely wonderful relationships for that period of the last 20 years. But this one was wonderful.
Mm.
So this was my crowning glory. And I had almost given up. I mean, I had kind of decided, well, you know what? I'm kind of an old guy, who's going to really want? I'm fixed in my ways, and I'm kind of like curmudgeon. So, why would someone want to be with me? So a friend of mine who's also a psychologist kind of convinced me, said, no, you have had wonderful luck meeting really fascinating people online. Instead of going into a senior community and kind of languish, in
Oh, you
the
thought
senior
there'd be a lot of women in the senior
well, I
community.
thought I thought the numbers would be good, and they are. So that was my second alternative, but I went online and then saw her her profile, and I said, wow, what a powerhouse lady. I've got to meet this
And
lady.
you're a sculptor, so you had a sculpture site. We both had sites because
Yeah,
we've both
I
been
had one
therapists for
professionally and
over
one
40
for my
years
sculpture.
each. So we combined 80 years of experience.
That's amazing. So,
Yes.
so
Yes.
talk about for just a minute, like how do you get past the insecurities of I'm older, I'm not really in shape, just the natural insecurities that people have about getting on these apps. How did you
Well,
get
one of the
over
things
that to create a
Dating buddies,
profile?
you've got to find some people. And we will tell you, one of the things we found is that your children are not
not
good
good
supporters
if you're
for
an
this.
adult because they
Grandchildren, yes.
start out with you, but they're not going to want to hear
No,
about
no,
what's
they
going
don't
on.
want to hear about your love life. They don't want to hear about your dating.
Honestly, I was saying to Frank, it doesn't matter how old you are. Everybody gets silly.
You get to be a teenager again. So
I
it's
mean,
kind of
it's
fun.
fun, it's exciting,
Yeah.
it's
The
enjoyable, it's
hormones are
hilarious,
working.
it's aggravating,
Yes.
it's ridiculous.
Yes, it's
So
fun.
you need somebody who will laugh with you
And go through the profiles and look at them and give you hope that there's possibilities, because what we talk about in the book is sometimes it's really kind of fun just to sit in your pajamas at home with your dating buddy and go through these profiles and look at these people and just have fun
yeah.
thinking about what's the possibilities out there. What are the things that I might be able to have, because you've got to build some hope. And if you don't have hope, you won't sustain yourself
right.
online, because it is a process, and sometimes
It takes time.
sometimes people don't really in their profiles be honest, and so sometimes you meet people and you say, my God, their profile and they don't look alike.
But you have to be really careful about how you write
Yes.
your own
And,
profile.
yeah, and if you're younger, you can kind of play
Like
the
the high
field and
ski, and here
whatever.
I am
Yeah,
in my mini skirt,
exactly.
you know, all that.
But as an older person, you need to put it specifically what you want, and say, look, I don't want a lot of responses. I just want the right ones.
I don't
I
want,
only need one.
I mean, well, I'm going to out you a little bit. Okay. Some of your past experiences have been with alcoholics.
Yeah, yeah. I unfortunately have had a couple of relationships with people who were high functioning alcoholics, but it really was that you're having a person who's having an affair with alcohol, so they're not available.
So on your
And that's kind of
profile,
sad.
so
Kind
on
of
your
sad.
profile, you
I said
say,
no alcoholics.
no, yeah, I don't want, you know, if you
No,
have
no. The
one
truth,
drink, man.
yeah.
I mean,
If you need a drink to function, hey, don't call me.
you know, one thing I'm really confused about is this 6 feet tall deal. I just heard a guy say, oh, you have to be 6 feet taller, the women won't look at you. And Frank said, oh yeah, guys have to be. I don't think all women feel that way. I know some
I hope
do.
they don't,
Men do though.
because there's a lot of guys that are not 6 foot.
I know, but every time you guys, my deceased husband was 5'8", and every time you guys who are 6 feet see somebody 5'8", I've noticed you say, oh, he's a short guy.
It is. They want people, guys that are 6 feet or taller. And to me, I wanted just somebody at least my height or taller.
Yeah,
I just didn't want them to be shorter than me.
exactly.
That was fine.
Yeah.
You see more eye to eye that way.
Exactly. Yes.
Right.
So
No, I
tell us
think,
about
yeah.
tell us about dating buddies. Like what's a good dating buddy? How do you pick one out?
Well, I think when you start out, you can use a grandchild or another person to help you get online. But you know, those kids are pretty darn busy. They're not going to be there at 10 o'clock at night when somebody stood you up. So you want to look for friends during the long term. And people do it different ways.
And it's really good to find someone who's had some experience online, so that they can kind of guide you through and help you not make the same kind of mistakes that neophytes that get into online
But you
usually
can do
make.
it by yourself. I did, but you know,
Yeah, she made all the mistakes.
I made all the mistakes.
First off, there's a whole issue, especially for women, we found, about what age do you put on there, especially if you've aged well. And these guys all want women who are 10 years younger. And so, what do you do if you're a woman who has aged well? And you don't want to be dating someone who's 10 years older than you, because they don't have the energy. They don't have the zest for life that you do. So we have a whole section of the book talking about
Stay in your
what are
5-year age
stay
group.
in the
We say that
5-year
for
range.
men too.
Yeah.
These men are not
Yeah.
happy when they're
Yeah,
when they're 80 and their
yeah.
wives are
Oh,
60.
no.
I guarantee you.
No, it's
I
not
mean,
good.
you want payback.
Oh my God, yes. The May-December relationship is very, very difficult. I had so many guys that came in and they were just it's so sad about the fact that, when they were in their 40s and their wife was in their 20s, it worked fine. But when they were in their 60s and their wife was in their 40s, believe me, it did not work as well. And that was a very difficult thing.
Particularly 60 and 80.
Oh my God, yes. 80 and 60 is a whole nother issue.
Yeah.
So we say 5 years. We
Yeah.
say, try to be careful, stay in your lane, find someone who's more similar to you, not someone who's exciting. Like in your 30s, you look for someone who's going to add a lot to your life,
People like bad
exciting,
boys.
and you have to
No
do
more
a
bad
lot of work,
boys.
and you have to, change things, and you've got differences. Find someone who's very similar to you. You have much more success. Find someone who thinks the way you do, You don't have to change them. You could just have fun with them. And this is a period about having fun and enjoying yourself and be active. And
My daughter, she has a guy right now and has for a while, but when she was online dating, she had a dating group. She had 4 girlfriends
yeah,
that were
it's not
divorced.
just one. You can have several dating
Yeah.
buddies, and it's usually a good idea to
So
have
they'd
more
get
than
together once a month, and then they also supported each other through the dating
right.
process.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
she didn't meet him online. She met him on
At a reunion, right?
no, she met him on Facebook because he was going to have surgery on his knee from skiing. And she said she was ready to go off Facebook, and she saw and responded to him. That, and we want to say this.
But they knew one another when they were younger.
Yeah, but they were in grade school
They're
together,
grade
and we
school.
knew him.
That's right.
So here's
People are meeting a lot of people at reunions.
Yeah.
Hey, that's another way. Not just online, but at reunions, they go back and they meet say, oh, we dated when we were 17. And
Get
oh,
out.
yeah, my wife died. And oh, well, my husband and I got divorced. And they meet. And I had probably 10 at one time in my practice, where the people had met at reunions,
Yeah.
and they had been dating people in their teenagers years. They had gone on to other relationships, and now they were both
And
single.
these stories are in the book. You know, we had
Yeah, we have lots of stories
we have
because 40 years of it therapy
yeah,
together.
I had a client whose kid, whose son was in the PR business and stuff, and her husband died, his dad, and he said, "Oh, why don't you go online, Mom?" And she went online, and then when she started getting pictures, she called him and said, "Hey, you know, this is what's happening. I'm getting these pictures. I'm not sure." And he said, "Oh, Mom, you sound upset. Online's not probably for you." And that was it. And she was excited about it.
Yeah, she stopped.
So, you know, make sure you're going to have people who can support you through it. They think it's going to be fun, you know, but you've got friends that, you know, and you won't necessarily, it might not be online where you meet them, but there's a little gland in your brain called the amygdala. And it is that hormonal area that gets you excited when you decide to start dating. And when you put the money in and sign up, it means you're dating. And then you start dressing a little better.
look
You
at
get
people
out of the
differently.
sweats. You walk into a coffee shop.
Yeah.
You glance around. You go sit at the bar. You know, make an effort to sit at the bar when you go to your hotel if you're early. You know, chat it up with the bartender who knows everybody that drops in. You know, so
Yeah,
I think of it as fun.
Yes.
Yeah,
And if it's not fun, you won't do it. And that has been the sad part when we've met people who say, oh, online, it doesn't work. You know, I had such a terrible experience. Well, you will have some experiences, but if you can't have fun with them, then you won't continue. And it is a numbers game, especially for women.
Yeah.
Men have a tendency to have the numbers in their side. And online, it is 50-50
50-50 online.
50% men, 50% women. So it is a better place, I think, for women in some ways, because they stand a better chance of meeting someone. But you have to kiss a lot of frogs, as one of my patients said, before you meet your prince.
Yeah. And you only need one person, by the way. One person. That's all you're looking for.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think having the right mindset, thinking about it as fun, thinking about it as, yeah, I know I'm going to have ups and downs, but you know, that's part of the experience, and it gives me some funny stories to tell later. Is
Yeah.
always nice. So
Gotta have someone to laugh with
Yeah.
meeting ups
And your therapist can be a good support for you initially too. And make sure you've got a therapist who's interested in having you go online and know something about it. And
Yeah.
you know, that can be a great support for you. However, they're not going to be there for you on Thanksgiving and Christmas. So try to bring in a friend.
Yeah. Try to find some people that are
you know, at midnight when you can't sleep because you're upset. Your therapist doesn't love you calling. It better be.
A therapist would not be available at midnight.
I actually called
Oh.
I called him at midnight when my son was killed. Oh.
Oh gosh. So one of the questions that I get frequently is, you know, what should people put on their profile? How much info should they put on there? What do you guys say? What do you think?
I think you have to stay really realistic. And again, this is where the dating buddy can be very
So let's
helpful.
talk about the first chapter.
Oh, yeah.
We have you put what has worked for you in relationships in the past and what hasn't. That's the beginning of your profile.
Yes, because what has worked for you in the past will probably be the kind of things you're going to look for now. I mean, we think that we change a lot, but actually, those core things are back there in that brain, and you're looking for the same qualities.
And you may keep being drawn to bad boys.
Well, I
And you
can.
got to look at it. You looked at the fact that you were,
Hey,
you had alcoholic
I could
uncles.
pick out alcoholics in a crowd.
And sometimes you're drawn towards negative qualities.
Yes.
There's something about them that reminds you of
They're
them.
familiar. What's
Yeah.
familiar is really what our brain feels comfortable with. Anything that's not familiar, we tend to shy away from, but that may be some things that are good for us.
That are good. Yeah, yeah. Like under 6 feet.
I like being 6'1".
Frank's, by the way, 4 years younger than I am.
Yes, I like older
Oh.
ones.
Okay. And I'm sure he reminds you of that frequently. So what about how would someone know they're ready to date again? Or if they're early on in grief as widow or a widower, what are some good signs that people
I'll
should
do
look
the
for?
divorce. I mean, the grief thing, and you do the divorce thing.
Okay.
Because, you know, sometimes it's far worse to be divorced than it is to have a dead spouse. It's really a lot of discrimination.
Well, you know, it's considered a failure if it's a divorce. And if someone passes, who's a spouse of yours, it doesn't seem like it's a failure. It's just as, you know, something that happened in life, and it doesn't necessarily.
And you didn't have anybody bringing you casseroles.
God, no. They wouldn't even bring me dates.
Whereas when my husband died,
You had
people-
casseroles.
they brought me many, many casseroles. And as I said, I told myself, this is what I said to myself. Okay, you've been in the grief and loss world for 40 years, literally. Because I worked as a clinical nurse specialist in psychiatry when my son was killed. And I taught grief and loss at the University of Rochester. I was already prepared, weirdly enough, maybe God. I always thought that. But anyway, anyway, I was in the grief and loss world for all these years, and I'm like, nobody's going to be able to help me. And then I thought, what would I tell this person to do? I
Tell
said,
her what Eliza said to you.
my granddaughter, who's 30, said, Grandma, what don't you want to play the field? And I said, Lizzie, at my age, there is no field.
She was wrong. Her granddaughter was right. There is a few.
So anyway, I called Cara in Palo Alto, and because I know Jim Chucci, who's the head of it. And I said, Jim, Cara is for people who've lost any kind of partner, child, or whatever, spouse, in Palo Alto, California. It's been there a long time. It's a wonderful organization. So I called Jim and I said, Jim, I'm telling myself what I need to do, and what I need is a therapist and a support group. So I said, but you're not going to be able to find anybody for me because Scott died 40 years ago, and I've been in this field for 40 years. And also now my spouse dies. So
But they did find you someone.
they did. Jim, the guy, his name was Jim also. It turned out, he said, well, let me see. I'll see if I can find somebody. And he called me and said, Gloria, I've got a guy for you whose wife died, whose child died, and who trains the therapists at Cara.
Wow.
So I was really lucky. And I would say to people, find that person.
Yeah.
Do not just go
Don't
with
settle.
any therapist. Don't
Yeah.
settle. If they don't know anything about grief and loss, do not go into that.
Yeah. And you have to feel that you're with someone who's really going to walk through this process.
Who
with you,
understands.
as you well know.
Yeah, who has a gut feel for it,
Yeah.
you know, who really, really understands.
That's right.
So, but it's interesting because I was in a grief group and then had individual counseling with him once a week. And I met this guy in the grief group, but after about 3 times, I said, I can't handle it. I told the therapist, I said, I can't hear other people's stories. it's not, grief group is not for me. It's too sad, people drowning and all this. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
So you
know.
golf through grief.
right. So he said, well, why don't you quit? And I said, well, I don't want to let them down.
Always the caretaker.
I can't let them down. He said, oh, for heaven's sake, just call them up and tell them you're quitting. Who cares if you're letting them down? So I quit. And then this guy and I quit, and Jim gave him my number, and he said, I can't believe you quit, because I was going to go ask you what you wanted to go golfing. So that's when we met. But as a widow, I have to say this. There's a lot of support if you open yourself to it and say yes.
Mhm.
That's what somebody said to me. Say yes, even if say yes to all the invitation and go.
I was lucky enough that I had a men's spiritual group, and there were 9 of us, and we met for 12 years. And I got divorced, and while the group was still there, and so they were very, very
And
supportive.
it was
of
an
me.
ugly divorce.
Pretty ugly. Yes, right.
Yeah, you almost
Yeah,
lost your
because
practice.
my wife was a therapist, but she had an affair with a client, and she
Mm.
lost her license
In your
connected to
practice.
that, and we lost our practice. So not only did I lose my wife, but I lost my business partner. I lost that part of my practice, so I had to start over again. So it was quite something. But the men's spiritual group was my savior. I mean, they really helped me. They became my dating buddies, and they were really good. I mean, they were tough on me about, hey, what are you doing? Why aren't you online? Why aren't you looking? And I said, oh, okay. Do you think I really should? I mean, I have a tendency to pick alcoholics when I just not pick another alcoholic. So no, it was really wonderful. It was a relief to find out that I didn't pick another alcoholic. So
But we've got a whole chapter in our book dedicated to grief and loss,
Yeah.
on how you know if you're ready and if you're not. I mean, you have to
what are
look
the
at,
signs?
is it impacting your life, daily living routine?
Can you go
you
to
know?
places that you used to go with your
Yeah.
partner, and do you avoid friends and connections with
Do you
people?
do you avoid
Can
talking
you not
about
talk
it?
about it?
Or are you
Yeah.
talking about it too much when you're
Yes.
with another person?
Yes, yes.
I have widows tell me all the time that these widowers, men marry within the first 7 months.
Mhm.
And so they want to talk about their wives. And,
Well, they want the person to be their therapist to help
Yeah.
them through the process.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily fair.
so you have to realize that may happen, and the guy may be worth it, and he may not.
Yeah. So you
know.
have to make that judgment.
Yeah, yeah. So, but we do have a lot of steps to look at and to see if you're ready. And then fears and concerns, we've got those in there. Our number one fears are, you mentioned some of them, that you're not enough, that there's nobody out there who'd want me, that kind of thing. And my cousin was visiting me, and I gave her our book, and I said, you've been divorced for a long time. Why don't you start dating? And she said, well, I'm not good looking enough. And I said, what are you talking about? You want to find somebody that sees a picture of you
And likes it.
and likes what you look like, and reads your profile and likes it. You don't want somebody that is looking at somebody. She said, these women that have their pictures on there. I'm saying, you don't want somebody that's looking for somebody in a short skirt, a short leather skirt with chains around her neck. That's not who you are.
Yeah. So it really, that's the part that a dating buddy really helps, saying, you know what, you want to find someone that loves you, and whoever you are, whatever you look like, whatever your interests are, you need to find someone. And the interesting part is, certainly our experience is, there is someone out there for almost everybody.
Yeah.
So the thing is that if you just stay in your lane and say, I have a good assessment of myself, I put that in my profile, I really present who I am, because most people have trouble when they present someone that they think they would like to be on their profile,
Right.
rather than
I want to
are.
learn to play golf, so I'll pick a golf.
Yeah.
And I put in
exactly. I've
there,
never picked up a golf
do not
club, but
get
I
in
want
touch with
someone
me.
who golfs.
I said, do not get in touch with you if you don't play golf. I really didn't. I don't want to
Yeah.
get somebody who
She,
doesn't.
she actually said, I want someone with a handicap and not a physical one.
I love it so much. Well,
So humor is another thing you can fit in.
Yes.
yeah.
You need to fill out your whole profile.
Yes.
You need to show people that you've taken.
And put an accurate picture. Don't go back 10
and do
years.
more than one
Use
picture
A
also.
glam picture.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so.
take current pictures
Yes.
and put them on.
Exactly, because you want someone who wants you, and if you don't present that in your profile, if you don't present who you are in your profile, then you're not going to bring people who want you. You're going to people who bring your profile. They want to date your profile. They want to date you.
Want to waste your time. This is
Yeah.
about.
I know. I wanted somebody to see me in real life and say, "Oh, you look better than your pictures," not be disappointed.
Well, that's exactly. I said, my God, you're the first person I met online recently that actually looks better than her picture.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for all of the tips and insights that you shared today. How can people get a hold of your book? Where can they go if they want to learn more from you?
They can go to the Golden Dating Doctors and .com. And you can go to opentohope.com. Also, if you want to know more about grief, loss, and recovery, the Open to Hope Foundation. And you can buy our book, Open to Love, The Secrets of Senior Dating. It's on Amazon. And we would love to have you get out there and get it. And, you know, we always write in
and
there.
Write a review.
Yeah, and write a review for us. And we always love to say to people, I like to put in the front of it, put this in the hands of somebody you know who needs to find love, even if it's not you, because it's out there. And we know the Surgeon General has told us one of the major problems in the United States is
loneliness.
Yep.
It is the #1 senior mental health issue.
And it's not going away. And I don't hear anybody talk about dating. If you look at those articles, they're like, go roller skating, join a bowling club, you know.
And Dr. Ruth in New York has just been designated as the loneliness ambassador. Yes. So she's moved from her previous orientation to the issue of loneliness. And she's delightful. What she says about loneliness is absolutely wonderful.
And we have a chapter that you won't want to miss. It's called Through the Bedroom Door.
Oh, that's so good. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing all this great insights. And I'll make sure all the links go in the show notes. So for anyone who's listening and not watching, you can go back and find those links to learn more about being open to love. Are you a widow who feels disconnected? Do you feel like you're stuck or even going backwards in your grief? Widowhood can be lonely and isolating, but it doesn't have to be. Join us in the Brave Widow membership community and connect. We teach widows how to find hope, heal their heart, and dream again for the future. Find your purpose and create a life you love today. Go to bravewidow.com to get started.